This is the interpretation of accounts for the 2012 question, 2011 question. It's Sully Plc. Um, so, just to go through the ratios here, what we've done for part A. First one is the opening stock. If the rate of stock turnover is 10 based on average stock. So, opening stock, if the rate of turnover is 10 based on average stock. Well, my P&L here at the top will give me a little bit of information. I have sales, and then I have cost of sales. So what am I missing? I'm not showing opening stock, I'm not showing purchases, and I'm not showing closing stock. If I scroll through the question, can I find one of them elsewhere? Yes, I can. Closing stock is included in current assets. They've shown it here, 80,400. So I know closing stock. I don't know opening stock. Purchases doesn't really matter. So obviously I need to find opening stock. I'm told the rate of stock turnover is 10 based on average stock. So I'm given the rate of stock turnover answer, and I'm told it's in relation to average stock. Well, the average stock formula, which we won't be able to fill out, the average stock formula is opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2 equals average stock. So I don't have average stock yet. When I get that, I'll be able to find opening stock. So how do I find average stock? The rate of stock turnover is 10. The rate of stock turnover. So the rate of stock turnover has its own formula. Stock turnover, that's the rate, that's how many times. I'm told the answer here is 10. Cost of sales divided by average stock equals 10 times in this case. So my formula, as I've just shown you there, is cost of sales divided by average stock. This is for the rate of stock turnover. And if I plug in the figures for that, my cost of sales is 875,000. It's my cost of goods sold. That's my cost of sales. I don't know average stock. I need to find that out for up here. But I'm told the answer is equal to 10 times. If the rate of stock turnover is 10. So, formula for rate of stock turnover, cost of sales divided by average stock equals 10 times. 870,000 equals a tenth of average stock, or average stock divided by 10. So my average stock, the multiply out here 10 times average stock. So one average stock is equal to 87,500. So I plug that out, I bring over average stock, multiply it here, then divide both sides by 10. Average stock is 87,500. I have average stock. Now what do I need to do? Well, I need to find opening stock. I have closing stock, and I can divide it by 2. Answer equal to 87,500. So opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2 is equal to 87,500, and therefore my opening stock is equal to 94,600. That's just that written out for the next step. Opening stock is 94,600, and that's what I was asked to find, the opening stock. So I was told the rate of stock turnover is 10 based on average stock. So I'm given information about what the rate of stock turnover is. So I can put that equal to 10, find average stock, and now I can go back to my original formula. I have closing stock, I now have average stock, I know 2, I need to find this. This is my X, this is my opening stock. Second thing we're asked to do is the gearing ratio. So the gearing ratio, just to show you again in the formulas, gearing ratios up here, it's our debt capital over our total capital multiplied by 100 over 1. Debt capital over total capital multiplied by 100 over 1 equals percent. So I've kind of spelled it out here a little bit what that means. So my debt capital, we'll be looking at the finance by here. My debt capital is my long-term, long-term capital here, that I definitely owe back. It's my loans, debentures, and preference shares. So loans or debentures are always up here, and this is my preference shares. My total capital is just my capital employed, these balancing bottom two figures. So 240,000 is my debentures, 100,000 is my preference shares. That's what I definitely owe back. That's my debt capital. Total capital is my my capital employed, 932,800. Literally plugging those two in, 240 plus 100 divided by 932,800 multiplied by 100 over 1, 36.54%. Again, percent's important. That has to be in euros. This has to be in percent. Otherwise, you'll throw away about 2 or 3% every time you make that mistake. So you have to have that in. 36.54%. Again, doesn't tell you about the decimal places here, but this was 2011. Recently, they've always told you put it to 2 decimal places. So we'll have it in 2 decimal places. Earnings per ordinary share, EPS. So earnings per ordinary share, we know the formula here. This is net profit minus preference dividend over number of ordinary shares. I know this, they're both given. I need to find preference, not preference shares, preference dividends. So my preference dividends is my preference shares, which is 100,000 multiplied by 5% return. That'll get me my preference dividend. So that's 5,000. So 100,000, 5% is 5,000. I now know this. My net profit is here, 45,800. And my number of ordinary shares is what's given in the question, 550,000. So net profit minus preference shares, preference dividend, 45,800 minus 5,000. Divided by the 550,000 ordinary shares multiplied by 100 over 1, 7.42 cent. Has to be again in the unit. That's my earnings per share. Fourth one, we've done this a couple of times now. They're asking us to get dividend yield. So nice and quickly, because we've seen this before. Formula for dividend yield is DPS, dividends per share, divided by share price in cent. This is my market value share price, same thing. Market value is the same thing as share price. 90 cent. So multiplied by 100 over 1 equals percent. We can work this out as we need to find our dividends per share. Dividends per share is not given here. I need to work that out. It has its own formula. So the formula for dividends per share is the total dividend minus the preference dividend divided by number of ordinary shares. Total dividend is up here, 30,000. Preference dividend I just worked out to be 5,000 up here. It's my preference shares multiplied by my percent. To be 5,000, and number of ordinary shares 550,000. As usual, we just plug those in here. Total dividend given 30,000 minus the 5,000 preference divided by 550 multiplied by 100 over 1 is 4.55 cent. Not my final answer, that's just my dividend per share. I can go back to this formula here. I now know my dividend per share, and my share price is my market value. My market value here is 90 cent. So I just plug those in. We now have our DPS, our dividends per share. That's my formula, dividends per share divided by share price. 4.55 divided by 90 is here. Multiplied by 100 over 1 is 5.05%. The dividend yield is in percent. 5.05%. Again, forget the percent. Every single time you do that, you forget the unit, you lose about 2% of your question. Don't do it. Very last one here, okay, is our, that's not the price earnings ratio. The last one we have here is our, how long would it take one ordinary share to recover its 2010 market price? So how long will it take one ordinary share to recoup its 2010 market price? 2010 is the year that we're currently dealing with. This is for this current year we're looking at. So how long will it take one share to recuperate its 2010 market price based on present dividend payout rate? How long will it take my dividends to get me enough money to pay off the one share I get? So formula we're looking for here is going to be my price dividend ratio. I put into brackets here, recoup market value of share. My price dividend ratio. So my price dividend ratio is share price in cent divided by dividend per share, which I've already worked out. I think I have that copied already. So my price dividend ratio which again I've shown you already to be the recouping the market value of a share. Price dividend ratio, so the formula for that was share price in cent divided by dividends per share, DPS, which we just worked out up here to be 4.5 cent. So nice and simple, plug those in. My share price is my market value, 90 cent, and my dividend per share is 4.55. My answer is in years, my answer is 19.78 years. So again, they kind of ask us in a roundabout way, and to be honest, usually the most difficult part of this is just being able to identify what formula to use, and obviously you need to learn the formulas off. So how long will it take to recoup one ordinary share based on present dividend payout rate? So this is my price dividend ratio, share price divided by dividends per share, and again your price dividends ratio is the recouping market value of share. It's the same thing, I just put it in here in brackets after it, but later on in the question you'll have to kind of call it its price dividends ratio. So that is the fifth one we have here. Again, there'll be a couple of ones for homework that you'll need to couple of years you need to work out, and then we'll start looking at part B, which is worth 40%, and there's a good bit of work in that, so we'll get to that. So this is the 2011 question.